Well, hello, Angel.
Hello, Pastor Z. How are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
I'm good.
That's good to hear.
Good.
You know why we're here, right?
Oh yeah.
Tell me.
This age-long conversation we've been having about all the things we didn't learn at home that we didn't find out growing up, or the way I like to say is all the stuff my mama never told me.
I feel the same way. And you know what, Angel? It's no dig at our moms.
Right.
It's no dig at anyone because we don't know what they were influenced by
Absolutely.
and how they grew up to
Yeah.
tell us anything about life in general
Mhm.
or the things that were so pertinent that we really did need to know before entering out on our own.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I share the same sentiment. Anytime I share things about my mom, I always preface it by saying, my parents did what they knew how to do, right?
Yeah, I agree with
They
you.
did the best that they could with what the information that they had. So you can't expect someone to give you or impart something to you that they don't have. You can't give away what's not in you, right?
That's true.
But there are a number of things, a number of things that are, and not just mamas, right? Mamas, daddies,
Yes.
aunties, things that we didn't learn in our coming up, in our growing up. And so I don't know. I have a ton. I'll start with you.
Okay. Well, when you were saying it's not just moms, it's in the community, we could also add those old wise women of the church because
For sure.
sometimes the things that they were sharing or would say or would come out of their mouth, it sounded not like it was an assist, it
Mhm.
sounded more like it was offensive
Mm-hmm.
toward us, and
Mhm.
perhaps that's how a lot of us even took it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know one thing is for sure, growing up, one time I remember hearing my mom telling somebody she was talking to on the phone that she was putting her daughter on birth control pills. And I'm like, my mom hasn't even talked to me about sex or anything else, or even about someone trying to touch me.
Mm-hmm.
But yet she's telling her community that she's going to put me on birth control pills and has never spoken a word to me about what to do, not to do, how to protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
None of those things, Angel. And so I look at that as a influence in how I want it to be a different type of mom, as well as
Mm-hmm.
even now, looking back in reflection, all the time it took to finally figure some things out, life lessons that I really needed before I went out into the world.
Absolutely. Well, your mom was definitely different than mine. She absolutely wasn't putting me on no birth control. Let's get that straight. So the thing she did tell me was, don't let anybody touch you. Like if you're on your,
Cycle.
there's probably some politically correct to say it, but if you're on your period, you don't let anybody touch you because you could get pregnant. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, I'm not even having one of those yet.
Okay.
That was my first thing. The other thing, and we'll get to this that she didn't tell you, I'm sitting here with you having a hot flash right now. Anyways, my own personal summer.
Okay.
But we didn't have the birds and the bees talk. So to your point, your mom is having this conversation with someone in her community and she's saying, oh, I think I'm gonna put my daughter on birth control. My mom would have never wanted me to be on birth control, obviously, because she would have felt like that was perpetuating, that was giving me a license to go out and have sex, right? So now if I think about what she didn't tell me and probably what I needed to know was what is happening to my body.
Yes.
Right? So what actually happens when a girl is going through what we call puberty, she's going to have a menstrual cycle. I feel like there's a rites of passage that comes with that. And here's what I think is so cool. One of my really great friends, sister friend, Audrey, in Washington State, they do this thing with the girls in their family where they put together what they call a period pack.
Oh, wow.
And it's already prepared because they know that it's coming.
Okay.
So they put all the things that need to go in there. And maybe I need to reach out to her and get the list of all of the things. But it's designed to be what's the word I'm looking for? It's designed to be a supportive conversation, and it's it's almost like a celebration, if you will,
Right.
right? So now you're entering into this other part of your life where these things are happening to your body. And so we as your family, the women in your family, want to be the first women to tell you about your body.
Wow.
Because you're going to learn a whole lot of stuff out there in the street. But if what you first get comes from here, there's some accountability to that.
Yeah. And you know what? The support behind it all, Angel, that's really what's intriguing. Because when I go back and I relive it, first, not having any information, second, hearing myself being discussed in the, you know, in the sense of the third party, so to speak, as if I wasn't there in the room, was that my introduction to my body?
Right.
And what was going on or preparing me for what would come next? And so just that, without the support, I'm thinking of it as, first of all, it impacts you as a child who's preparing, hopefully, to go into womanhood, but not even understanding that still as a child, the importance of having these conversations.
Right. I think, I agree, number one, the support about it. The other part is the relationship that a girl has with her mom. So here's the other thing. There's some stuff, whether you're 29, 19, 29, or 49, amen, that you can only get from your mama. And you can get it elsewhere. So maybe what I want to say is there's nothing like, I think, sometimes getting it from your mom. And so I again, no dig on my mom. She did what she had to do. What I think about is, again, the gaps in the information, because for lack of information, people will create their own story. So that's how young women, you know, now we're talking about kind of that puberty thing and having a menstrual cycle, but there's so many other topics. That is where you get into that explorative type. And then your girlfriends at school are talking about it. And then you start talking and you're like, well, so-and-so does this and so-and-so does that. I mean, again, if I had to think about this particular part of the thing, when I think about that kind of rites of passage, the period packet, well, do you put tampons in there or do you put maxi pads in there? And how do I shop for a maxi pad? Like, there's so many things. And again, I don't think any parent would know exactly everything to say, but bringing it full circle in this part of it, when I think about the Cunningham family and how they kind of prepare the women, the young women coming up in their family. I mean, whether it's, people would agree it's the right or the wrong thing to do, they did something.
That's it. You hit the nail on the head. They did something. But I believe right now what we're really seeing is, even with the differences between our age, but also the differences between those two moms that were there and maybe never had the conversation given to them, as well as where was that bonding experience with being with your mother. And everything we believe at that time that your mom would tell you, it's got to be the truth. It has to be that person who's telling me any and all things that's necessary for me not to go out being naive or, you know, outside of being able to process some questions that would be most important for me to even ask during that time. Because I know for myself, first, I was fearful of sex, didn't really have the right perspective of where sex came into any type of relationship from lack of exposure. And so now, because of lack of exposure, here you are very naive about not only your body and how your cycle works, or even how it affects sometimes your mental stability, or, you know, these sound like they're very grown-up kind of conversations, but yet at the age of 12, 13, some even younger young ladies at 9, they're beginning their cycles without a conversation.
That's right, absolutely. And that's kind of scary, actually, because what you just said about just understanding the changes that are happening. So chemically, let's just talk
Okay.
from a biological, if we look at it from a scientific, perspective, or even, I won't use that term, I'll say medically, right? So, why do I have pain in certain areas of my body? What is that about? Why am I maybe a little bit more tender, sensitive, right? What does that look like if I'm somewhere and I stain my clothes, or just all of those things. So there's just so much that comes with that. You were mentioning about getting the information from your mom. One of the things that I think about is, when I was a kid, whatever my parents said, like, they knew everything.
Oh yeah.
So if they had been better equipped, I'm like, okay, so here's all the stuff they did tell me, because there was some good stuff too. And then the stuff they didn't tell me, it's like, man, if they were really thoroughly equipped the way they needed to be,
Oh my goodness.
shoot,
Would you have grown up a little too fast?
Maybe.
Too soon?
maybe, right? But I'm almost thinking maybe they'd have been like, you know what, we don't need that sixth baby, we good. Like, but yeah. So I as I think about that, because we kind of kicked it off, I'm thinking about, the birds and the bees talk, if you will, or having to talk about sexuality, what happens to your body hormone, growing hair.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one.
That's so important.
Do I shave my hair on my armpits and my leg? Like, what is that about, Mom? Or when hair starts to grow in your,
Yes.
in your female area, like, Mom,
You didn't tell
You
me
didn't
anything
tell me.
about
I
this.
was
What
hoping.
is going
Right,
on?
exactly.
Yeah.
I think about I was talking to someone yesterday, and I was talking about, so people have said to me that I have a really great sense of style.
Okay.
And I think I
think you do.
touche.
I love those sneakers.
So, yeah, and today I'm representing Roll
I
Tide.
don't know about Roll Tide Row, but
But yeah, so I got my pink for breast cancer, and then I got orange for
the
blood
heart
cancer,
is
which was
what I would
September.
call it. Okay.
But I wear it because my brother was such a, yeah. Anyways, I digress. But
It's fine.
what was I saying?
You were talking about hair growing under your
Oh
armpits.
yes. So
and in
what
other
do we do with
places.
that, Mom? Do you buy? I mean, I can't recall ever getting a razor. I can't recall anybody even saying that. Oh, I know where I was going. So I started talking about my sense of style. So I'm sure that I gleaned something from somewhere, but I don't think I really became a girly girl where people could say that I had a keen sense of style until I was probably in my 20s, after I got.
I
Yeah.
can see that because I think, honestly, if you were similar to me, I started seeing, for example, like I was in the Chino Nation, is what I call it. When chinos were popular, and the pullover sweaters and the button down.
Loafers?
Yes.
Did you wear penny loafers?
Yes, I
Yeah,
did.
penny loafer. I had a burgundy or whatever, that mahogany
Right.
color, and a black pair.
Yes.
Yes.
And actually, I think about that in terms of that wasn't because my mom had given me that style.
Right.
I was seeing it when I was at school or maybe out in the community.
Exactly.
And during my summer jobs, I would work to save enough money to be able to buy some of those things. And when it was time to get ready to go off to college, I made sure that I bought a few pair of slacks that same brand, button down little shirts and little sweaters to put over it. And then I realized it was the style that was because of the influence around me
Right.
in the community. It wasn't necessarily a style that I was going to keep. And I didn't look at myself as being conservative. But that's what that was supposed to mean.
Oh yeah, it's conservative, little nerd,
Yeah.
kind of nerdy, a little bit, I guess, preppy. Was the term we used.
That was the term.
Yeah. So my mom, she always in elementary school and probably into junior high, she dressed me. Probably about 8th grade, and then going into high school, I was able to pick my own things. Thank the Lord. But I don't remember being able to, like you said, I don't even know how my style came together. Like, how did I know that on a first date to a basketball game, and the person that I'm dating is the coach.
Oh.
So do I go like in a sweatsuit or warm-ups, or do I wear like some cute jeans and a blazer and some heels? So speaking of Audrey again, my sister friend, I remember I called her and I was like, Audrey, so-and-so has invited me to come to a game, to one of his games tonight. And, you know, this is like the first time I'm going to be around his friends and his kids and the whole nine or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. I just got off work. I mean, maybe I should just go on Friday dressed down. And she said, you absolutely will not. She said, you will put on a pair of jeans.
She was
and some heels.
Okay.
She was like, she said, wait. So she calls me 80. She's like, 80. She's like, so is this the first time? I said, this is the first time. She said, oh no, girl, you gotta come with it. You gotta bring your A game. So she was like, jeans is okay, but you need to wear some heels, wear a little blazer. She was like, what you gonna do with your hair? I was like, well, I just had it in a ponytail. AD.
Was she trying to say this was a potential husband or something?
Well, she's saying you don't know where it's gonna go, and this is the first time he's invited you. You want to be invited back.
That makes sense.
And you have to understand the context too, because in the location where we were, there aren't very many African American men or women, right? So he's the only Black coach at this particular time. And so for me, and he had even told me, he said, well, when you come in, people are going to automatically associate you with me, because they're going to be like, we know she don't live here.
Okay.
We know that she doesn't teach at this school, or, you know, whatever. So anyway, saying all that to say, it seems trivial, but I needed to call her and ask her, like, I don't know, what should I do? And she was like, girl, take that ponytail down. Do something. Put some heat on that hair, like do some twists or something. She was like, do something. Anyway, so I didn't get that, you know, where you know how to, because we grew up in a generation where you had school clothes and church clothes and play clothes, right? So when you came home, you took school clothes.
And sometimes your school clothes turned into play clothes,
well,
because you would mess them up.
There's that. Okay. So I had that upbringing, but I didn't know. And then, you know, there's the toggle as a single, when you're a single woman, it's like, okay, I want to make sure I want to send a message, but I want to send the right.
But you're also trying to make sure that as a single woman, you know, whatever the messaging is, you're not trying to say that you're loose.
That's
you're wild,
right?
You know? And I think those are some things too that didn't get put into the contract of raising me.
That's it.
Because I didn't know how to really be. You had no dating experience.
That's where I was going next. Go ahead.
No, you can talk about it too.
Well, that's what
yes, because seriously, no dating experience. All you remember was those conversations that went on, the spiral conversations that don't equip you to be able to know what to do if you went out on a date.
Right.
Nobody told me, for example, that first, when you go out on a date, he's going to open your door. He doesn't do that all the time. He might do that in front of the house while somebody is looking, if it was your father or maybe your mother. But overall, it's not. And then there's back to thinking about what type of person is he going to be as well. Now, if you're setting me up with him, what do you know about it? Because you haven't told me anything. You just thought that we would make a good couple.
And usually that's based off of how we look together.
Exactly.
Oh, and the age old, y'all would make some pretty babies.
Oh, please.
It's the old people. If I had $1 for every time the old people would say that, okay, so we're going to have pretty babies, but dysfunctional.
Because it was very clear I wasn't going to be a 16-year-old dating. Okay?
Right.
So I'm here now about 18 years old, and I've had some dating experience from being away at college. And didn't make me a scholar on picking the right one either, or who it should be, or just because it was a thrill to see yourself on campus and being able to see some of the different fraternities, those guys and everybody. You have to remember, what their minds are thinking about is that fresh meat on campus. Is that she doesn't know who I am. She don't know that story.
Where you from?
Yeah. And so everybody plays nice when you're first meeting. And then I come back to that first date when I went out with the pick that my mom, no shade mom, when it comes to,
Did you hear that, Mom?
no shade mom, when it comes to who she would pick. And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
two in particular. One was, and I'm not going to call his name because he's already made it very clear that he was almost my mother's son-in-law. But what I'm saying is, just because they're in the church, just because
That's a whole
they
other
are,
episode.
it is. I won't even get started with that one. I'll say that. Like you said, that's a whole nother episode. And even when they might be some pastor's son, that's another episode. That does not mean that that individual is the right one or anyone that you should be going out with just because you've been, so to speak, placed together because maybe your mom, your dad, or even their family thought that would be something that would be a good thing.
Right.
But I go back to, it's got to be a God thing because the good thing doesn't always turn out to be the right thing.
Well, that I'm gonna leave that because I could go there.
Okay.
So back to this whole date, this situation, and this is what Audrey said to me. She was like, girl, you need to present yourself as wifeable. I said, what? She was like, right. And so me and her have this dialogue, and she means it in a good way, right? What she's saying is, she was reminding me who I was as a person. Like your character, your integrity is on point. Okay. You don't need to go in there looking like a nun, like you said, but I don't want to send another message. So I definitely didn't go in there with no Daisy Dukes or, no little bodycon dress on and basketball game. I dressed appropriately. Bringing this full circle as people listen to this, probably like, what does this have to do with what your mama didn't tell you? Because I called Audrey and not my mom.
Wow. And you know what? That's really big because it sounds like you had connected with Audrey on not a surface level, but on places that were so important.
Yes.
That you respected her opinion.
Absolutely. So, when she says you want to present yourself as wifeable, what she's just saying is dress for the occasion, but spice it up a little bit.
Okay.
Right? So again, feeling like I have this impeccable style. I think I'm, I have more shoes and whatever than I probably need. That part of not when you're growing up, and this has to do, I think, with proximity and exposure.
I do agree.
So if you never have been to an opera, if you've never been to a New Edition concert, if you don't go away, if you're on a debutante, maybe I'll use that, or if you haven't been in a place where you have to do like a public speaking something, you are not conditioned to know, well, you probably shouldn't wear your overalls and that to this. And not to say that I did those things, but again, full circle, sometimes I think, how did I come up with this style? How did I pull this together? How do I know how to rock a pair, camel pants with some heels and a blazer and, still look, they're camel pants for crying out loud from Goodwill of all places, right?
Okay.
So where did that come from?
Yeah, where did the talent come from?
Yeah.
From the creativity to be able to put it together and know that it was going to work.
Right, exactly. So, again, thinking of those things, definitely puberty coming into my womanness, how to put myself together, hygiene, grooming.
Yes.
I think by the time I was in high school, I was probably doing my own hair, which consisted of having a good relaxer and making sure your hair and your scalp was clean, and I would put it back in a ponytail. And I think that's how I wore it the entire time that I was in high school.
Why always the ponytail and not the, for example, I remember the Shirley Temple curls.
Oh, yeah.
Or, making sure that maybe it was a spiral or something like that.
Well, here's where I think sometimes I can't speak for all culture, but for Black girls, there is a rite of passage when your mom does your hair
Yeah.
And then when you get to start doing it on your own.
Yes.
But even as a grown-up, there's something about having your mom wash your hair or press your hair, right? I can remember Saturday nights where, Saturday was a whole vibe. You
Yes,
got
it
up,
was.
they turned on Walter Hawkins and the Love Alive choir, and we cleaned the house and the yard or whatever. And then, if we were going to do something as a family, which we didn't do a whole lot of like outings per se on a Saturday. I mean, we did some stuff, but then mom was cooking. We would come inside, shout, that was the night you took the Saturday night bath and you got your hair washed and conditioned. And then we didn't blow dry. We didn't blow dry back then. You got them little Miss Sealy plaits, right? So you walk around all day with your plaits, and then about 7:30 after dinner, plaits start coming down, Blue Magic, Dax, whatever, so soft free, whatever. And then you got your hair pressed out, and if you're gonna wear ponytails, and you got your little Shirley Temple curls, so that you can have curls at the end of your ponytails, or if you got maybe like half braids and half whatever.
Or even if it turned into being maybe inside like one of the little hair, what do we call them? Little hair ties or something.
Yeah.
And the hair was hanging out.
Exactly.
But they would try to fluff it and make it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that part, it's like I definitely had that experience, and I can say I loved it when my mom did my hair. I mean, despite the few,
Of course.
you better not move, right? Hold your ear, whatever, right? But if your mama was really good, you didn't have to hold your ear, and if you sat still,
She still hit me.
so it's like, so again, you're thinking, where did I get, like you said, the creativity, so by the time I was in high school, I mean, like I said, I was doing my own hair, and I was like I wasn't trying to be with no boys. So
Okay.
I was like,
I'm feeling you on
Levi's,
that.
and I had white t-shirts.
Yes.
And every once in a while I would wear something that was like kind of cute and maybe a style. But in high school, I think I was high school was a blur anyway, but probably my comrades would say something different. So fast forward to now being an adult, coming into my young womanhood, being married, being where I am today. And I think, I think I just, something in my mind, that creativity, and that's where I think that is a gift from God.
It has to be, because even when I go back again, and I think about that little girl taking a photo on the porch with her grandparents, and mom was already married to the husband that was in a different city, living with 3 sisters. I felt like the cutoff for me in just remembering everything correctly was beginning to occur, where I'm sitting out there making some type of gesture with my hands with my little kit-looking sneakers on, and I'll say my little blue-looking crop pants and the little white t-shirts, and recognizing that the part that with a grandmother and with a mom are 2 different parts. It's great to have the maternal instinct, but yet that's an older parent parenting. Where you have a young child who's maybe 7 or 8 or, not even quite in their teens yet. And then you go back to live with the mom, and things are different because you've learned a lot about being independent to a degree on your own, learning how to cope with, not having people that you could just run to or talk to all the time about any and everything. But at the same time, friends living in a rural area are not always right across from your house.
Right.
They're either some friends from school, or you see them on Sundays, as we were talking about before, at church or something like that. And then it feels like, because you're not in that small place where all of them are, you still have to learn how to be social cues, social skills. Not putting or forcing yourself into. Okay, we're
gonna hold on. We're gonna turn the corner.
Yes, we are. We're turning the corner because, again, all of these things are important lessons, life lessons.
They are.
And if you are whether with the grandparents and their two sons that are older than you, or if you're back with your parent, your single mom by this time, with three other children, you have to actually learn how to integrate into the family. And sometimes that's not very pleasant.
That's deep.
That is deep.
That's a lot right there.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the social skills.
The social skills.
So, back to the things I didn't learn at home was I did not learn social skills. I did not know how to, and here's the thing, I'm not saying that parents necessarily need to teach their kids how to do an elevator pitch, right? You know, I'm going to Montessori school, I need to say, hi, my name is Angel Dillon, I'm 4 years old, I'm 3 years old, and you know, whatever, right? But when I think about the social skills is how to look people in the eye,
Yes.
how to, you know, articulate and enunciate your words. Now, I will say my dad was very instrumental in me being a reader. And I think being a reader also makes you a pretty savvy communicator, because I think we could argue different perspectives on what's good or bad communication. And as being one of those people who has been told, you sound white, you talk white, whatever. First of all, there's no such thing as white talk or black talk or whatever. There is talk, there's communication. We'll leave it at that. But that social element, I remember, so here goes. I remember going to a birthday party. I was 9 years old, and my schoolmate, Jaya, was her name, and we lived in the same neighborhood. And Jaya lived in a part of the newer subdivision, and her family had moved there. And I want to say, I think Jaya's dad was military too, because my dad, we were military, and a lot of people in this neighborhood. But beautiful neighborhood. Anyways, Jaya had a birthday party, went to Jaya's house, and Jaya had a pool.
Oh, wow.
And let me just tell you, that I almost drowned at that party. Okay, first of all, how you gonna send me to a party, a pool party, and you know I can't swim?
Well, first of all, let's bust that myth that Black people can't swim.
So I'm going to a party, you know it's a birthday party, like the etiquette of it all, the social skills, right?
Sure.
So, and I want to be careful not to say this is what I would do, because it's not about, like we've said so many times, it's not about that our parents did anything wrong. They did what they knew how to do,
Exactly.
right? All we're simply saying is these are things that as an adult now you look back and you're like, dang, I wish I had known how to show up at the front door.
Right.
Hey, here's my gift. Hi, Jan. This is my mom. You know, whatever, right? But let's just get back to the fact that you sent me to a party.
Did
That I couldn't
did know there was a swimming pool?
Yes, it's a pool party because you sent me with a swimsuit.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Wait, if you really take it a little bit farther, you got a swimsuit, but you can't. But your behind can't swim.
Maybe they thought you would just get into the little kiddie pool or something where the water was wet.
Listen, I remember, you know how they say when you're about to die, you have a near-death experience, a movie of your whole life comes before you. I saw the movie that day.
Oh my gosh.
And I just remember, I don't know what I did, but I pushed myself up into the edge. And let me just tell you, no one else at that party
No one was
recognized. That's another episode, but anyway. So the social skill, that part, right? So being able to say, you know what, I don't know how to swim, but I'm here for the birthday party, and being okay with saying, I don't know how to swim, wear something cute, do the games, do the cake and the food. You don't have to get in the pool, Angel.
But Angel, no one gave you the permission, it sounds like, to open that dialogue, to be able to share with them.
What's the name of this episode? What's the name of this episode?
Life lessons, the things I did not learn at home.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think, and now I'm sure, because we have talked about it, not lately, but we kind of laugh, we kind of chuckle about,
Sure.
you know. I'm like, Mom, you remember I went to, she said, you got in the pool?
She didn't know. Angel, how many years have gone
She said, you
by?
got in the pool?
Oh
I mean, and
my
it's
gosh.
comical, right? It's
Okay.
comical. I'm like, Mom, I got in the pool. And my whole life flashed before my eyes. So of course she's like, oh Lord, my baby could have drowned. Yes!
Yes.
Yes, your baby could have drowned, and I could not have been here to tell you this story that is a little bit comical now, but looking back, it's like,
Yes.
Mama,
The unprepared
families, not just mamas and daddies and aunties and grandmas, we gotta do better.
We do.
That social,
Any caretaker,
Absolutely.
anybody who has the ability
Absolutely.
to influence some of these children or even young adults.
So here's the other thing that I want to touch on. I know All right, so we're back.
Yes, we are.
All right, so we were talking about the social
Social cues.
and me
again.
almost
Right.
drowning. The other thing that is, you know, on a very serious note from a social cue perspective is as a young person, so you know, we hear in this day and age, we hear like about stranger danger, and you know, I come from the generation where we stayed out until the street lights came on. And I can tell you that as a 5-6-year-old, we lived overseas and we would go into what we called out on the economy, right? Because that was off the base. We would be downtown at the McDonald's, and the McDonald's overseas is very different than in the
Yes.
US. We would be walking. I mean, we are in first grade, like the Get Along Gang, like the Backyardigans or something, and nobody's bothering us, nothing. But when I think of all of the things
I agree.
that could have happened, right? So from that social perspective, you know, talked about the birthday party, but then what about when I'm in a place and I'm uncomfortable? Or somebody does something that I don't like, that doesn't feel good. What do I do to escape? Or if someone at school says something to me that's inappropriate and I don't know, because we haven't defined inappropriate
Exactly.
at home.
Well, you know what it sounds like? It's a lot of conversations that have to take place before leaving home.
Mm-hmm.
And as ill-equipped as we may have been going out,
Mm-hmm.
learning those things along the road or on the journey, it's been difficult at times.
Yeah.
And at the same token, it's like, where was it that we had to pay so much of a cost even going through some of the horrific experiences in order to get an understanding. And could the parents have, or caretakers, or whoever, grandma and them, could they have actually done anything to actually offset some of the trauma that a lot of us have dealt with because of not being equipped,
Right.
being naive?
Right. And I think here's the other thing. I don't know that families, at least, you know, in my growing up, knew that kids needed to be educated on those things, right?
Wow.
Or that teachers and educators, daycare workers, whatever, coaches, that sort of thing. But and it doesn't even have to be something as egregious as, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is maybe someone touching you inappropriately,
Sure.
right? But it doesn't even have to be as egregious as that. It could be something as simple as you're in a conversation or there's words going back and forth, maybe in class or at a game or something, and what is the social skill to remove yourself because this doesn't feel good,
Right.
or
de-escalate
or
something.
de-escalate a situation, right? And sometimes at the hand of other adults, right? I'm gonna give you I'm giving an example.
But it's good. So people can take that example and see if it maybe has any merit or it weighs out in some way
Absolutely.
to prevent maybe endangerment or.
Well, so I remember because I went to Montessori school and preschool, all of that stuff, and a portion of elementary school, probably about half, maybe a little bit more overseas. And I remember this little girl, and I'll never forget what she looks like. She reminded me of Peppermint Patty. And she had red hair, and she had that kind of Ramona Quimby bob. I'm aging myself, but people probably can relate. Anyways, she called me Tar Baby. Now, first of all, to call me Tar Baby today,
It's a different social.
I can give you a whole sermon on why tar is needed, all the things that tar does, you know, what it costs, you know, publicly traded, all of that, right? But at 5, 6 years old, when somebody calls you Tar Baby, you know why they're calling you Tar Baby. Right?
Yes.
They're calling you Tar Baby because, you know, your skin must be dark like tar, right? And here, this is what is so, I don't want to say crazy, but here's what's so interesting is she called me Tar Baby, obviously to hurt my feelings and to try to demoralize me. And in my little 5.5, 6-year-old mind, this is what I said back to her. I said, well, you ain't nothing but a pupil, like the pupil of somebody's eye. And in my mind, okay, so that's the facial expression.
That's my facial expression.
What? So, and other people will probably be like, what? Pupil? Girl, that wasn't like that.
Those weren't even fighting words.
You should have called her. You know, my sisters, of course, were like, later on in life when I told this story, my sisters were like, especially my older sister, she's like, you should have knocked her out. Like, you should have, and I probably should have. God bless me.
But I'm glad that you didn't, because we don't know where that would have
gone. Okay, but hold on. So I did not go home and tell my mom and dad that I had been called Tar Baby.
Why not?
Hold that thought. But that little girl went home and told her mom and her daddy that Tar Baby called me a pupil.
All right. We're finna
turn the corner. We finna turn the corner. So I get to school the next day, and they called me in the office, okay? And I am being reprimanded because I called this other child a pupil.
And you know, actually, wasn't that a pleasantry?
Hold on.
Considering what she said to you.
Let me tell you how I broke it down to my family and this little 5-year-old mind at the time. So the teacher, the person asks me, did you call her a pupil? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, why did you do that? I said, because she called me Tar Baby. And of course the teacher was at a loss for words. She didn't know what to say, but she clearly was not equipped to handle cultural cultural competency conversations and cultural conversations to say, this is why this could be viewed as derogatory, et cetera, and whatever. But let's back into this pupil.
But it also is a place of the lack of having the social equipment, educational equipment to look at you and even say, you know what, even though she may have called you that, I'm sorry for what she said. And she didn't digress by saying that if she would have. But she did digress when she was trying to recommend you on the pupil. I mean, even the sound of that,
But
does
here-
that sound derogatory?
But let me just.
Please tell me the rest of the story.
So let's go back. This is the first lesson that we didn't get at home. Number one, why was I not comfortable and confident enough to go home and say, this little called me a tar baby today?
I mean, I would like to understand that.
Let me tell you, over here in
wait to get in the door.
Over here in these parts, we fight kids. Now we ain't gonna hit you, but we fight like we don't let
So we
kids.
got some words.
That's it.
Not fearful.
So hold on.
All right.
So number one,
Now.
why would a child not go home and say, let me tell you what happened at school today?
That's a very good question. You weren't given that permission.
Why didn't I say
Why?
this little girl called me a tar baby today? So when it unraveled, because you know it unraveled, and they had to contact the
Especially after
parents.
you were contacted.
So when my dad was and they probably don't even remember this, but this is what I said in my little 5-year-old mind. They should have known I was destined for greatness then. My dad wanted to know, where did you get? I said, well, Dad, you know, the pupil is just like the tiniest part of the eye. And if you don't really get close up on it, you really can't see it. And so it might be important, but people don't really care about the pupil. They don't really look at the pupil. So I call her that because I feel like she's just a small person. She could be important, but she's really not that important. She just and I did just like this. I said, she just a little.
You know what? I want to say.
And it probably
If
sounds,
that was your thought
it probably
process.
sounds so silly. That's why I said in my 5-year-old mind, I was thinking, so here's what I did learn
Okay.
from somewhere, because we had this conversation, more things are caught than taught. I knew enough in my little mind to make an assumption, or at least make the connection that somebody that would call me tar baby, they can't be that big
Not that
of a
important
person.
in
They
your
can't
life.
be. Something must be going on with her,
Yes.
right?
Well, you know, the first thought is it's always taught at home. But what if this wasn't something that was a part of a teaching that was going to help her understand that everyone doesn't look the same?
Right,
Everyone
right,
might have brown hair or
right.
curly hair,
Right.
and there's differences that we enjoy about them once we take the time to get to know them,
Mhm.
versus going directly to something derogatory and saying that to another child.
Mhm.
Because what if that was in reverse? How would that other child who is,
What could I have called that white girl? What could I have called her?
don't get me started, you know I'm older than you are. And I wouldn't want to see my children or even,
Not that I would do that. I'm just thinking of the scenario if it were reversed.
and that's what I'm saying, but where did it come from? It has to be something that was learned or not learned,
Absolutely.
or was around other people that have that same way of thinking.
Listen, let me tell you. Anytime a kid repeats something and says
A
something,
parent or someone has said in their
they don't. That's not even in their vocabulary. They heard somebody say that, right? It's kind of like you never know how not classy the music is you listen to until you hear your 5 or 6-year-old repeating the lyrics from the backseat, and you're like, oh wait
Don't
a
say
minute.
that. Don't say that.
What have I been listening to, right? So it's because somewhere Tar Baby has been rehearsed. Because where did you get that from?
And my other question would be, wasn't she in school with other Black kids?
Well, then there's that. No. In that class, I was the only Black student.
And just knowing that, I mean, as a caregiver again, even as the principal or a teacher, there were no accommodations or really checking on you or checking in with you.
Absolutely not, because at this same school, so back to the context of learning how to respond to things in a social context,
Sure.
how to, and this isn't necessarily about, because at 5, 6, 7, I don't know very many people that are teaching kids lessons on integrity. I would, but
Right.
that's not what this is about, what I would do.
Or maybe not as much as integrity, but how to get along with other children. It doesn't matter their ethnicity.
Well, so again, back to the things we didn't learn at home, and we're talking in a social context now. At that same school, I had 2 big old French braids. Okay. In our house, don't you let nobody touch your hair.
Of course.
Right? That's the platinum rule.
Okay.
Okay. Little boy mangles up his hands in my hair, pulls one of my braids apart, and I'm looking crazy at this point. So I have this little Hot Wheels lunchbox, and I take my Hot Wheels lunchbox and I hit that joker with my lunchbox.
Okay.
And let me tell you about the fallout of that. That was back when we had the metal lunchboxes, and the thermos was actually glass on the inside, which is better health-wise, and we're not going to go there. Anyway, I hit him with the lunchbox. Again, I didn't go home and tell anybody that I had hit him with the lunchbox.
I'm beginning to see this maybe a little clearer. Were you not telling because you were concerned about getting into trouble?
Oh no. That's an idea. That's a thought. But hold on. So my mom is washing my thermos.
Okay.
And she realizes that the thermos is, and I completely lied and said I threw it. Like when I was putting it away.
No, you kind of did. But we're not teaching you not to tell the truth.
You need to tell the truth. So, but again, why did I just not say,
yes,
this is what happened? And so I told part of what happened. I didn't tell the other part because Mama obviously wanted to know why your French braid was messed up. So yeah, this person pulled my hair apart. And what did you do? I hit him.
But you didn't tell the rest
Because
of the story.
because guess what? Guess what that kid did? That kid went home and told his parents. Just like Peppermint Patty.
Yeah.
Peppermint Patty. They go to the school. Now the teacher wants to talk to me and wants to know why you hit him with the. So I explained.
Okay.
He pulled my hair apart, hit him with the lunchbox. How you gonna get suspended in like kindergarten? I mean, like, what kind of trajectory am I on? Are we gonna need to invite therapy into these? But all jokes aside, there was an opportunity after that first incident for the family, if you will, the adults in my life, the caretakers in my life to say, this is not how you handle it, number one. And you're right, what they did to you was inappropriate. And you know what? A simple having that young man walk over and apologize. Angel, I'm sorry I pulled your hair apart, right? But here's the thing. So this is not even just about what we didn't learn at home, because we're talking about any adult or caretakers or people that have influence. The teachers were not equipped to tell him, I'm just going to call him Timmy. Timmy, we do not pull hair.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Acceptable practice.
Right. We don't pull hair. You know what? In most classrooms, there are rules of engagement. They're the rules. In this class, we don't pull hair. We allow people to have their personal space.
And you know something else, Angel, when you're talking about that, like rules of the classroom. one of the things that most teachers probably start out with, or even maybe at home, we do start out with, because here's how it's normally said: don't let me have to come up to that school.
Well,
And what
there's
does that
that.
really mean too? Because don't let me have to come up to that school, but where are you letting me have a voice to say,
ding, 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 ding,
yes,
ding,
what's been going on
That's
at
it.
that school?
That's
or
it.
even after that school.
That's it.
Or when I'm on my way home from the
That's
school.
it.
And I could go on with that. Or even in the house when I'm supposed to be protected,
Right.
not only from the school, but also from the other people that might be coming and going that aren't coming to the house.
Right.
Or the home. Or somewhere nearby the school.
Because somewhere, I think the notion, and this is going to take us to a different topic, so I'm not going to go too deep. Because remember, I think I told you in my book club, we're reading Caste right now.
Yes. Okay.
And so there's something I think ingrained, and I think it goes across cultures, not just Black people, African American people, that we need to make nice. But I want to know what the difference conversation is with the kids that were the bully
Right.
versus the kid that is being bullying. So when I see things and parents are like, somebody yelled at my son, true story, somebody yelled at my son walking the dog today, let me go down and holler at him.
Yeah, see what's going on.
Let me go down there, not literally, but let me go down and holler at Mr. Bob, see what was going on, right?
Yeah.
So that to me is a parent in an appropriate way, right? You're not going down there with no gun or, the brass knuckles or nothing. Just, hey,
Yeah.
this is what happened. My son mentioned that you screamed up and, you were yelling and whatever. So you're advocating
And supporting.
and supporting, right? So where is the breakdown in home and upbringing that we haven't taught our young people how to advocate for themselves?
And you know what, Angel? I think that's a great place to stop for now and come back next time with some more conversations surrounding that. How do we teach our children to advocate for themselves? But also, how do we teach that care provider,
Right.
that support system that influences them?
Exactly.
Various ways that can be not just application, but safe, as well as impress upon them, even with social cues, that there's going to be a subsequent response from how we
That part.
act
That
out.
part. That part. That part.
So
So we'll pick it up
we'll pick it up
next time.
next time.
Social cues, things that I didn't learn at home.
Life lessons.